On our son's birthday, my husband took him to the newly opened restaurant of his white moonlight. Without a moment's hesitation, I had my lawyer draft a divorce agreement. When he saw the agreement, Shenyang actually laughed out loud, just because I wanted our son to have a decent meal on his birthday. You want a divorce? After 10 years of marriage, if you had just put a little effort into our child's diet instead of making this stuff that even a dog wouldn't eat. Would I have to take our child out to eat? I pushed the divorce agreement over and said very calmly, say whatever you want, but I'm definitely getting this divorce. When I went to find my husband and son with a steaming thermal lunchbox, I saw them at the entrance of the Home Flavor Kitchen restaurant downstairs. Shenyang and Xiao Yang were sitting in the innermost booth, and his white moonlight, Lin Yang, was sitting right across from them. The evening crowd had thinned out. So she simply closed the cash register, picked up a glass of red wine, and joined them. Spread out before the three of them were golden fried chicken, cakes dripping with thick cream, and fizzy drinks. All of these were foods I strictly forbade Xiao Yang from touching. Oh my, what a happy family of three. Is it the child's birthday? The voice of the elderly woman at the next table came through the glass. I held my breath, waiting for Shenyang to explain. But he just smiled awkwardly and said nothing. Xiao Yang's mouth was stuffed with cake, leaving no room for words. Lin Yang's gaze swept over Shenyang's face, and she said hypocritically, Auntie, you've misunderstood. I'm not so fortunate as to have such a wonderful husband and son. A sharp pain twisted in my stomach, and I felt nauseous. What made me even more devastated was what happened next. Xiao Yang suddenly rushed over and hugged Lin Yang's waist, showing an intimacy I had never seen before. I wish you were my mom. Auntie also wishes she had a son like you. It's just a shame I don't have that blessing. You're better than a real mom, unlike my own mom, who won't even let me eat cake on my birthday, always feeding me that healthy food even pigs wouldn't eat, just like a stepmother. The nearby tables of guests let out good-natured laughter. Someone chimed in, nowadays, stepmothers are even more caring than biological mothers. I stood outside the door, trembling all over, my fingers digging tightly into the handle of the insulated lunchbox. Inside was the birthday dinner I had spent 3 hours preparing: steamed sea bass, a vegetable salad with minimal oil and salt, cream of mushroom soup made with sugar-free yogurt, and mini carrot cakes made with whole wheat flour. The doctor said Xiao Yang's allergic constitution requires strict dietary control. Over the years, I've worn out nutrition books and even obtained a health management certificate, all to ensure my son could enjoy meals that are both healthy and delicious. I remember when Xiao Yang was 3 years old and had a rash all over his body. I stayed by his side in the hospital for 3 days and nights without closing my eyes. I remember the nights when he had asthma attacks, and I carried him on my back rushing to the emergency room. I remember the weekends I spent running around to every organic supermarket in the city just to find ingredients he could eat. And now, with just one sentence, he turned all my hard work for his own good into self-indulgence. The insulated lunchbox suddenly felt incredibly heavy, the carefully prepared meal inside seeming like a colossal joke. Lin Yang smugly wrapped her arm around Xiao Yang and looked at Shenyang. Shenyang finally spoke, reaching out to hold Lin Yang's hand, which was painted with bright red nail polish, his tone softer than I had ever heard before. Yang, you're still the best. You know how to prepare the food our child truly loves. My nails dug deep into my palm, but I felt no pain. Yang, was he already so intimate with her to address her like that? Unlike some people, Shenyang continued, his eyes filled with the familiar disdain I knew all too well, who are always saying, you can't eat this or that's unhealthy, turning the house into a hospital cafeteria. Xiao Yang didn't even dare to bring the snacks she made to the last parent-teacher meeting. Afraid the other students would laugh, Lin Yang covered her mouth with a light laugh, her fingers tracing ambiguous circles on the back of Shenyang's hand. Brother Shen, don't say that. Sister is just doing what's best for the child. She deliberately emphasized the word good with a heavy and drawn-out tone, laced with obvious sarcasm. A chill ran through my body as I suddenly realized a terrifying truth. When this restaurant first opened, Shenyang had worked overtime for a whole week. Now that I think about it, the smell of cooking oil on him when he came home late at night wasn't from working overtime at the office, it must have been from helping her with the restaurant's renovation and preparations. Right, thinking this way, many things seem to have subtle clues. Last month, when I came back from grocery shopping, I saw the father and son sitting by the window. When Lin Yang bent over to pour tea for Shen Yang, her collar nearly brushed against his face. Last Wednesday, Xiao Yang was supposed to be doing his homework at home, but I found a Jiao Wei Xiao Chu discount coupon in his backpack, with exclusive for Xiao Yang written on it in lipstick. Every time I bring it up to Shen Yang, he gives me that impatient look. What are you overthinking again? They're running a business. What's wrong with being friendly to regular customers? Then the next day, I took my son to visit as usual, but this time was different. They actually incited my son to the point of hating me. That child, whom I carried for 10 months, avoided certain foods for 300 days, and nearly died from postpartum hemorrhage to bring into this world, now actually detests me. The glass door made a harsh sound as I pushed it open. The cheerful laughter in the restaurant abruptly stopped, and everyone's eyes were fixed on me. What are you doing here? I don't want you here. I don't want to eat the food you make. It's disgusting. Xiao Yang spotted me immediately and started making a fuss without hesitation. Shen Yang frowned and stood up. Jenin, is this really necessary? It's our son's birthday today. Can't you just let him be happy? Do you really have to force him to eat your so-called healthy meals? He pointed at the almost untouched cake on the table. Look, this is what a child should eat, not that healthy food of yours that even a dog wouldn't touch. Lin Yang curled her red lips into a smile and pretended to pull Xiao Yang aside. Don't talk to your mom like that. She deliberately paused. Though she really doesn't act like a mother. I trembled all over. Who do you think you are, flirting with someone else's husband every day, and now you want to be my son's mother? Jenin! Shen Yang shouted sternly, but Lin Yang was already covering her face and crying. I seduced him. Her tears came instantly. It's you who can't keep your man or your child. Brother Shen always says the food you cook is like slop for pigs, and Xiao Yang says he'd rather not have you as a mother. I raised my hand and slapped her hard across the face. The restaurant fell dead silent. Then everything went black before my eyes. Shen Yang slapped me even harder in return. I crashed into the dining table behind me, a sharp pain shooting through my lower back. Apologized to Lin Yang. His voice was so loud it seemed to shake the entire restaurant. Now, immediately, clutching my burning cheek, I saw Xiao Yang rush into Lin Yang's arms, glaring at me as if I were an enemy. You hit Aunt Lin. I hate you. Get out. He grabbed the insulated lunchbox from my hand and slammed it hard against the wall. The moment the box burst open, steamed sea bass and vegetable salad splattered everywhere. The whole wheat cake crumbled into pieces, just like my shattered heart at this moment. Lin Yang held Xiao Yang, the imprint of my slap still on her face, yet she smiled triumphantly. Shen Yang stood in front of them, as if they were the ones who needed protection. Jenin, you've disappointed me so much. This isn't over today. Go back and cool off first. I touched the corner of my mouth and felt blood. Maybe my teeth had cut the inside of my cheek, but compared to the pain on my face, the ache in my heart was suffocating. The little boy who once nestled in my arms and said, "Mom is the best," was now looking at me with a gaze full of disgust, as if I were trash. Fine, very well. I bent down to pick up the dented lunchbox, my fingers brushing against the spilled sea base, which had already gone cold. Shen Yang, remember the choice you made today, walking out of the restaurant. I heard Xiao Yang shouting, if you leave, don't come back. I want Aunt Lin to be my new mom. The night wind felt like a knife cutting across my swollen, red face as I trembled and unlocked my phone. My finger hovered over the lawyer's chat window, pausing for 3 seconds before finally pressing the voice message button. Lawyer Lu, please draft the divorce papers for me. The phone vibrated quickly, and the other party replied professionally and restrainedly. Is there anything you need to particularly fight for? Something to particularly fight for? I immediately thought of Xiao Yang, that child I carried for 10 months and gave birth to. But at this moment, he was affectionately holding someone else's hand, calling her mom. I'll think about it again. The moment the send button was pressed, the moonlight outside the window suddenly turned cold. It turns out that when the heart dies, even breathing becomes silent. I sit in the dark living room. The light from my phone screen reflecting on the divorce agreement. The clock points to 1:20 a.m. and finally, the sound of a key turning comes from outside the door. I hear Shenyang whisper, "Xiaoyang, keep it down." Then comes the muffled sound of the child kicking off their shoes. They thought I was asleep and didn't even turn on the light, but I switched on the floor lamp beside the sofa, and the sudden light made both father and son squint at the same time. Shenyang was still holding a takeout bag from Jiawei Xiaochu, and the greasy aroma immediately filled the entire living room. Not asleep yet, Shenyang smiled awkwardly, hiding the bag behind his back. About today, I quietly watched him perform. Xiaoyang hid behind his father, with chocolate sauce still smeared on his face. "Honey, I admit it was wrong of me to hit you, but the way you were acting, hitting someone in front of so many people wasn't right." Shenyang took 2 steps closer, carrying the distinct scent of the cheap perfume from Lin Yang's shop. "So it's my fault." My voice was terrifyingly calm. "No." Shenyang ran his fingers through his hair. I acted impulsively." "Xiaoyang, come and apologize to your mom." The child dawdled, unwilling to move. Shenyang gave him a push. "Hurry up." "Didn't we agree?" "Sorry," Xiaoyang muttered, his eyes fixed on the floor, mumbling under his breath. "But Aunt Lin's cooking is just better than yours." I took a deep breath. "Xiaoyang, go back to your room first." The child immediately looked up at Shenyang, and only after receiving a silent nod of approval did he reluctantly move toward the bedroom. It wasn't until I heard the sound of the door closing that I pushed the documents on the coffee table over. "Sign it," I said. Shenyang glanced at it, his expression freezing. "Divorce agreement. Jenon, are you crazy? Just because I took our son out for a meal today, I want to say. It's because of the 3 months of deception from you. Because you and another woman made my son resent me." But as soon as I opened my mouth, I felt as if something was stuck in my throat. Before I could even speak, Shenyang grabbed the agreement and threw it back onto the coffee table. "You're exaggerating. Yang is just a bit enthusiastic. What's wrong with Xiaoyang liking her cooking? You insist on making the house a mess. I've made up my mind. We're getting a divorce. And the child stays with me. I don't want to hear any more of his nonsense." "On what grounds?" Shenyang blurted out. "You don't even remember all of his allergens, so what makes you qualified to raise him?" Shenyang's face flashed with panic. "How could I not know? Isn't he just allergic to peanuts, and seafood, mangoes, and food additives?" I counted on my fingers. "Last year, he accidentally ate candy with tartrazine, broke out in a full-body rash, and was hospitalized for 3 days. Where were you?" "On a business trip. The year before, at his birthday party, a classmate brought shrimp chips, and he went into shock and had to be rushed to the emergency room." "Where were you?" "Working overtime." Shenyang's Adam's apple bobbed. I've been busy with work, busy being free labor for Lin Yang's shop." I sneered. "That imported oven in her kitchen that cost 18,000, was it paid for with our card, starting 3 months ago?" "There have been large expenses one after another in our joint account. After I got back today, I started going through the accounts one by one. All these expenses are for kitchenware, furniture, and renovation supplies. Who else could they be for if not Lin Yang?" The bedroom door suddenly burst open, and Xiaoyang rushed out, grabbing Shenyang's leg. "Dad, I don't want to be with Mom. She forces me to eat that awful medicinal food all day. I don't want to eat it. I want to be with you and Aunt Lin. Aunt Lin makes me delicious food." A chill ran through me. "Xiaoyang, Mom said those things can." "You're lying," the child screamed, cutting me off. "Auntie Lin said those are all lies. I had fried chicken and ice cream today and I'm fine. Auntie Lin also said you're a control freak. My classmates all laugh at the lunches I bring, saying they're like an old man's food. I don't want to be with you. I don't." Shenyang seized the chance to pick up his son. "See, even the child doesn't want to be with you. Even if it's for the child's sake, you should stop making a scene. That sounds like a favor." I turned and looked at my son, who was hiding in Shenyang's arms and glaring at me angrily. Suddenly, I remembered when he was 2 years old and had a high fever that wouldn't go away. I carried him and ran through 3 streets to the children's hospital. Back then, He was so feverish and confused, but his little hand tightly gripped my collar, saying, "I want mommy, now." His eyes are filled with nothing but hatred. "All right," I slowly stood up, "since we can't come to an agreement, we'll wait for the lawyer's notice." As I turned around, I heard Shenyang's urgent voice, "Jenon, let's talk again." At the same time, Xiaoyang cried out tearfully, "Dad, make her leave quickly." The moment the guest room door closed, my phone began to vibrate. The lawyer replied, "As per your request, we have emphasized the issue of the father's neglect of the child's health. However, the court does take into account the wishes of children over the age of 10. If you only want a divorce without custody, the legal process will be much faster." The lawyer's reply glowed coldly on the phone screen. I stared at the line, "The court will consider the wishes of children over the age of 10, my fingers unconsciously digging into my palm. By the time the sky outside began to lighten with the first hint of dawn, I realized I had stayed awake the entire night. The bedside alarm clock showed 7:15 a.m. On this weekend morning, the house was unusually quiet. Pushing the door open gently, a strange fragrance filled the living room. Xiaoyang stood on a small stool in the kitchen, clumsily stirring something. Hearing the noise, he turned his head, a long-lost smile on his face. "Mom, are you awake?" His voice was unbearably sweet. "I'm making noodles for you." I froze in place. The last time he called me Mom instead of the cold you was 3 months ago, before Lin Yang arrived. The morning light filtered through the sheer curtains, falling on his upturned eyelashes, and for a moment, he seemed to transform back into that little bundle of joy who would throw himself into my arms and act spoiled. "Xiaoyang." My voice was so hoarse I had to clear my throat. "Where's Dad?" Dad said he had something to do and went out. Xiaoyang hopped off the stool, carrying a bowl of steaming instant noodles as he walked over. "I'm sorry, Mom, I was wrong yesterday." The rim of the plastic bowl was smudged with seasoning powder, the noodles were a bit bloated from soaking, and a few wilted. Yellowish-green onions floated on top. This was absolutely the worst cooking I had ever seen, but at that moment, it made my eyes burn more than any Michelin-starred meal. "I know Mom means well for me." He lowered his head, his fingers twisting the hem of his clothes. "Auntie Lin, her cooking is delicious. But last night my stomach hurt in the middle of the night." I immediately crouched down to check his abdomen. "Where does it hurt? Is it again?" The words reached my lips but I swallowed them back, not wanting to bring up those unpleasant memories during this moment of reconciliation. "It's not serious." Xiaoyang pushed the bowl of noodles into my hands. "Mom, you eat it." I deliberately didn't add the spicy packet. "There's something grainy at the bottom of the bowl that's poking my finger." I thought it was undissolved seasoning and didn't pay it much mind. My son's eyes sparkled as he looked at me. A scene that has appeared in my dreams too many times. Mom is also at fault. I took the bowl, the steam moistening my eyelashes. "Next time if your classmates make fun of your lunchbox, tell me, okay, we can explore new recipes together." Xiaoyang nodded vigorously and urged, "Mom, eat quickly. It's going to get soggy." As the first bite of noodles slid down my throat, I sensed something was off. Besides the usual MSG flavor, there was a strange bitterness. But seeing the expectant look in my son's eyes, I swallowed it anyway. "Is it good?" he asked, tilting his head. "It's good," I said, forcing myself to take a few more bites despite the nausea. "It's just a bit." Before I could finish, my breathing became a little difficult, and red rashes started appearing on my arms. Black spots began to appear before my eyes, and my skin itched as if being bitten by thousands of ants. Thud. The bowl hit the floor with a dull thud. Xiaoyang." I struggled to reach for the phone on the coffee table, my breathing becoming as labored as a bellows. "Help, Mom. Call 120. In my blurry vision, I saw my son standing still, unmoving. His expression changed, a cold smile that didn't belong to a 10-year-old slowly curling at the corners of his mouth. "Is the peanut powder tasty?" he asked softly. "Dad said you're even more allergic to peanuts than I am." I felt as if struck by lightning. This was murder. My own son is poisoning me. The excruciating pain made me curl up on the floor, and my trembling fingers finally reached the edge of my phone. Just as I was about to grab it, a foot wearing Ultraman slippers kicked the phone away fiercely. Dad said you're trying to take me away. Xiao Yang's voice came from far away. You're so evil. I don't want to be with you. I want to be with Dad and Aunt Lin. Just die. The phone was kicked under the sofa. I desperately opened my mouth wide, trying to suck in more air. But my throat felt sealed shut, and I couldn't catch my breath. In my last moments of consciousness, I saw Xiaoyang open the door and follow Lin Yang out. The smell of disinfectant flooded my nostrils. I opened my eyes to a world of stark whiteness, white walls, white curtains, white lab coats. The liquid in the foredrip was falling, drop by drop, into my veins. You're awake. Shenyang's face appeared above my line of sight, and he breathed a sigh of relief when he saw I was awake. My throat burned with pain, as if my windpipe had been rubbed with sandpaper. Shenyang quickly handed me a glass of warm water, but after just a sip, I choked and started coughing violently. You're really too careless. Can't you even tell it's peanuts? Shenyang's first words were an accusation. I closed my eyes, and fragments of memory suddenly flooded in. Xiao Yang's eerie smile, that bowl of instant noodles mixed with peanut powder. The Ultraman slippers he was wearing when he kicked the phone away. The heart rate line on the monitor fluctuated violently. The child I carried for 10 months actually wanted me dead. I looked at Xiao Yang, who was hiding behind Shenyang. Pulled out by Shenyang, he timidly avoided my gaze. Hurry up. Shenyang gave Xiao Yang a meaningful look, and only then did Xiao Yang reluctantly speak up. I'm sorry. I looked at him, feeling nothing but a chill in my heart. Let's get a divorce. The child will be with you. Saying it out loud wasn't as hard to accept as I had imagined. Instead, it felt somewhat like a weight had been lifted. Lin Yang, are you crazy? The child is only 10 years old. How could you say such things in front of them? He suddenly grabbed my wrist, his words filled with nothing but accusations. Yet it did nothing to change my mind. Just as he was about to say something more, bang! The door was suddenly pushed open, and several people in uniforms strode in. The leader scanned the room and asked coldly, "Who is Mr. Shenyang?" Shenyang's hand stiffened, and he slowly released me, frowning as he turned around. "I am. Who are you?" "Municipal Health Bureau." The other party flashed their credentials, their tone icy. "The restaurant Jiawei Xiaochu is suspected of using gutter oil, which has caused multiple cases of food poisoning among customers, with 2 currently in critical condition at the hospital. The legal representative on the business license is you. Please come with us immediately to assist in the investigation." The air instantly froze. Shenyang's face instantly turned pale, his expression shifting from shock to anger, then to disbelief. Chapter 2. How is that possible? It can't be. This has nothing to do with me. He pulled out his phone, his fingers trembling as he dialed Lin Yang's number. The call connected, and Lin Yang's low sobs came from the other end. As if she had suffered a great injustice. "Lin Yang," Shenyang almost growled through gritted teeth. "What the hell did you do? What's the deal with the restaurant's gutter oil? Why is my name listed as the responsible person?" I don't know." Lin Yang's voice was intermittent, choked with sobs. "I just opened a restaurant. I don't know anything about the business license." "Shenyang, you have to believe me." "Bullshit." Shenyang laughed in fury. "The restaurant is yours. The oil was purchased by you, and now that something has happened, I'm the one responsible. Do you think I'm a fool?" Lin Yang was still sobbing and trying to defend herself, but the health bureau officials had lost their patience and coldly interrupted. "Mr. Shin, you can say whatever you need to at the bureau. For now, please cooperate with the investigation." Shenyang clenched his phone, his knuckles turning white, ready to curse again. Suddenly, Xiao Yang rushed over from the side, hugged his leg tightly, and shouted with reddened eyes, "You're bad people. Don't take my dad away. Aunt Lin wouldn't hurt anyone either." The health bureau officials frowned and spoke impatiently. "Parents, control your child. If he keeps making a scene, we'll take him along too." Shenyang took a deep breath, suppressing his anger, and said to Xiao Yang, "Xiao Yang, be good and go with." He paused, his gaze sweeping over me, his voice slightly lowered. "Go with your mom for a while. Dad will be back soon." I sneered, but before I could even refuse, Xiao Yang was already shaking his head vigorously, tears falling in big drops. "No, I don't want her. I want Aunt Lin." You're all bad people, he cried out, even reaching out to push the people from the health bureau, causing a momentary scene of chaos. Xunyang's face turned ashen, and in the end, he had no choice but to compromise, saying to the health bureau staff, "Please, have someone take him to Linyang's place." The other party nodded impatiently, called over a subordinate, and dragged Xiaoyang away. Xiaoyang struggled, turning back to shout at Xunyang, "Dad, don't go with them. They're wronging Aunt Lin. You have to clear Aunt Lin's suspicion." I looked at Xiaoyang, frowning slightly, and realized that at some point, Aunt Linyang had become more important to him than Xunyang. I had thought Xiaoyang just didn't like me as his mother, but now it seems that in his heart, no one compares to Linyang. Xunyang closed his eyes, and when he opened them again, only cold anger remained in his gaze, clearly having realized this as well. Before leaving, he stared at me intently, his voice lowered to a whisper, "Get me a lawyer." I crossed my arms and gave a faint smile. "Don't worry. I'll have the lawyer send you the divorce papers. As for the rest, don't come looking for me." The health department staff took Xiaoyang to Linyang's restaurant. As soon as he saw Linyang, Xiaoyang immediately broke free from the staff's grip and rushed toward her, crying, "Aunt Lin." Linyang crouched down and gave him a perfunctory hug, but her eyes kept looking behind him. "Where's your dad? Why are you alone?" Xiaoyang tearfully explained what had happened. Upon hearing that Xunyang had been taken away for investigation, Linyang's smile instantly froze on her face, and her arms loosened around Xiaoyang. "What a hassle," she muttered under her breath, but after all, Xunyang was the best cat she could find and the one who treated her the best, so she was still a bit reluctant to let go. So, before confirming that Xunyang had no more use to her, she couldn't just tear off her hypocritical mask, so, reluctantly, she took Xiaoyang's hand and said, "Come on. Let's go home with me first." Linyang lived in an old residential area, where the stairwell was cluttered with moldy cardboard boxes and discarded furniture, and the mottled walls were covered in crooked graffiti. The dim corridor light flickered on and off, and the air was thick with a damp, musty smell. Auntie Lin. Xiaoyang stood in front of the rusty iron door, his small hands tightly gripping his backpack straps, his voice growing softer and softer. "It's so dirty here. I don't want to live here." Linyang took a deep breath and forced a stiff smile. "Be good, let's go inside first." She pulled out her keys, the glitter on her nails glaring sharply in the dim light. "No." Xiaoyang suddenly took a step back, her heel hitting the beer bottles piled in the hallway, producing a crisp clinking sound. "It's so scary here. I want Daddy." Linyang's mascara-coated eyes twitched. She crouched down, suppressing her irritation and softening her voice. "Xiaoyang is the most sensible, isn't she? Daddy is busy right now, so you'll stay with Auntie for a few days first." "You're lying." Xiaoyang suddenly raised his voice, the echo piercingly sharp in the empty hallway. "You're lying, Wah." Xiaoyang started throwing a tantrum, a trick that had always worked on me before, but this time, he was facing Linyang. "Shut up." Linyang abruptly stood up, her nails digging deeply into her palms. She looked at the crying child in front of her and suddenly grabbed his arm with such force that Xiaoyang stumbled. "Listen." She leaned in, the scent of perfume mixed with cigarette smoke hitting me, her voice lowered to a whisper yet sharp with every word. "Your father can't even protect himself now, and your mother abandoned you long ago. If you keep making a scene, you'll be sleeping in the hallway tonight." Xiaoyang was stunned by the sudden change in expression, tears welling up in his eyes, but he bit his lip hard. Not daring to cry out, he timidly nodded, his small hand unconsciously rubbing his reddened arm, and obediently followed Linyang into the house. By evening, Xiaoyang's stomach was growling with hunger. Timidly, he tugged at Linyang's sleeve and said, "Aunt Lin, I'm hungry." Annoying. Linyang, who was applying nail polish, shook off his hand without even looking up. "Wait." She impatiently ordered takeout and tossed Xiaoyang a box of fried rice. "Eat up, you little troublemaker." Over the next few days, Linyang grew increasingly impatient with Xiaoyang. Upon learning that Xunyang might face criminal charges, she finally dropped her last bit of pretense. "Go mop the floor," she commanded, crossing her legs. No work, no food. 10-year-old Xiaoyang held a mop taller than himself, Clumsily dragging it across the floor, Lin Yang complained that he didn't clean well enough and withheld his dinner. In just a few days, Xiao Yang's plump little face had thinned out, revealing a pointed chin. "You're nothing but a burden." Lin Yang stubbed out her cigarette in a bowl. "Go find your real mother." Xiao Yang huddled in the corner, his voice as faint as a mosquito's hum. "Mom doesn't want me anymore." "Then go find your dad," Lin Yang shrieked. "Dad was taken away by the police." Xiao Yang's tears fell in large drops onto the ground. "Little bastard, stop crying, it's so annoying." Lin Yang grabbed a clothes hanger and struck him fiercely. "I'll send you to the orphanage tomorrow." After tiring herself out from hitting him, Lin Yang irritably ran her fingers through her hair, grabbed her bag, and headed out. "I'm going out to play mahjong. You better behave yourself." The door was slammed shut violently. Xiao Yang crouched in the dimly lit room, hugging his knees and sobbing quietly. These past few days, he had learned to wash Lin Yang's clothes with cold water, knew to prepare hangover soup for her when she returned from playing mahjong, and could even tell by the sound of her high heels whether he should pretend to be asleep or force a smile. Late at night, Xiao Yang curled up on the balcony, applying medicine to his scraped knees by the moonlight. The sound of a drunkard vomiting came from downstairs, and he suddenly remembered overhearing Lin Yang on the phone last week. "That kid, we'll send him away once the heat dies down." The alkaline smell of the laundry detergent stung my eyes. "Mom," he wanted to say he truly regretted it, but he also knew his mother no longer wanted him. "After I was discharged from the hospital, I handed all the divorce matters over to my lawyer, changed my phone number, and severed all ties with the past." My divorce with Shenyang didn't go smoothly. Shenyang refused to agree to the divorce, but since I had sufficient evidence, his infidelity and transferring marital assets, which made him the at-fault party, he ended up with nothing. A month later, I received the divorce certificate, its red cover stinging my eyes. 12 years of marriage had ended just like that, so lightly. With the assets I received, I opened a small flower shop in the west of the city, naming it Nyan Chu. The shop wasn't large, but every detail of the decor was arranged by my own hands: pale green walls, wooden shelves, and a small white round table with 2 rattan chairs by the window. Every morning, the sunlight streams through the floor-to-ceiling windows, casting a golden edge on every flower. Gradually, Nianchu Flower Shop gained fame in the community, and I got to know many regular customers. The most supportive one has to be lawyer Lu Chen, who helped me with my divorce. He almost comes by every day after work to buy a bouquet of flowers. "What's the reason today?" I asked him with a smile while wrapping the champagne roses. Lu Chen pushed his glasses up a bit sheepishly. "Xiaotang passed her piano grading exam today, so I promised her a reward." Lu Xiaotang is the daughter of Lu Chen's older brother. Her parents are working abroad, so he's taking care of her for now. This 5-year-old girl has an amazing talent for languages and a lively personality, quickly becoming the flower shop's unofficial employee. "Auntie Wan, can I help you water the flowers?" Xiao Tang stood on tiptoe, her small hands gripping the edge of the counter, her big eyes blinking. "Of course, little gardener." I handed her a small spray bottle. "Remember to spray gently, like rain." Watching Xiao Tang's serious expression, I often think of Xiao Yang, who broke my heart. After the divorce, according to the agreement, Xiao Yang is to be raised by Shenyang, and I am only responsible for providing child support, with no involvement in anything else. Although I have decided to leave the past behind, there are still people who tell me about things that happened before. For example, although the gutter oil incident at Lin Yang's restaurant wasn't Shenyang's doing, as the legal representative, he still bears most of the responsibility. However, due to his active compensation and good attitude in admitting his mistakes, he was granted bail pending trial. But this incident had a significant impact, and he couldn't keep his job. For example, after Shenyang got out, he went to find Lin Yang and saw that Xiao Yang had been abused by her to the point of being nothing but skin and bones. The two of them had a huge argument. When enemies meet, their eyes blaze with hatred. Having already tricked him into becoming the legal representative, and now discovering that she had abused Xiao Yang, Shenyang lost control and stabbed Lin Yang with a knife. Lin Yang accused him of intentional injury, To avoid going to jail, he compensated Lin Yang a large sum of money, which led to an out-of-court settlement. However, none of this had anything to do with me anymore. I was running my small flower shop, thinking life would continue peacefully like this, until that afternoon, the doorbell rang crisply, and I was in the back room arranging the newly arrived flowers. "Welcome to Nianchu Flower Shop. Please feel free to look around." I came out wiping my hands, and my voice abruptly stopped. Shenyang stood at the door, with Xiao Yang, whom I hadn't seen for half a year. By his side, I could hardly recognize the father and son duo. Shenyang's once impeccably ironed shirt was now crumpled and clung to his body, with a noticeable ring of grime around the collar and a missing button at the cuff, revealing frayed threads. His hair was greasy and plastered to his forehead, his chin covered in dark stubble, his eyes sunken, and his cheekbones prominent, as if all vitality had been drained from him. Meanwhile, Xiao Yang had gained a full round of weight. His plump little belly stretching his cartoon-patterned t-shirt taut, with suspicious sauce stains around the collar. His originally fair little face was now flushed with an unhealthy redness, with crumbs of potato chips at the corners of his mouth. His sneaker laces were untied, and one of his socks had slipped down to his ankle. It seems that during this time, Shenyang had been feeding Xiao Yang takeout. "Mom," Xiao Yang called out to me timidly, his voice filled with uncertainty, his small hand tightly clutching Shenyang's clothes. Seeing them, my pruning shears came to an abrupt halt mid-air with a click. The thorn on the rose stem pricked my fingertip, and a drop of blood seeped out. But I felt no pain. What was this little sting compared to the suffocating sensation from that night's peanut butter? "What are you here for?" I hid my bleeding hand behind my back, my voice colder than the roses in the freezer. Shenyang stepped forward, dark circles under his eyes. The once high-spirited man now looked like a down-and-out beggar. "Xiao Yang knows he was wrong. We admit you were wrong," I suddenly laughed, raising the surveillance footage saved on my phone. In the video, the 10-year-old child was secretly squeezing peanut butter into my bowl, then turned and gave a thumbs up to Lin Yang, who was off camera. Xiao Yang's face instantly turned pale. "Mr. Shun," I slowly wiped the scissors, "your son was already 10 years old when he attempted murder, and he must bear criminal responsibility. He didn't mean to." Shenyang suddenly grabbed my wrist. "That venomous woman Lin Yang put him up to it. Xiao Yang has been having nightmares every night these past few days, crying and saying he's sorry." "Mom," I abruptly pulled my hand back. Just then, the glass door chimed as the wind bell was struck, and lawyer Lu Chen walked in holding Xiao Tang's hand. The 8-year-old girl's eyes sparkled as she rushed toward me. "Auntie Wan, I want a sunflower." Shenyang's expression instantly stiffened. Lu Chen subtly stepped in front of me, his gaze sharp behind his gold-rimmed glasses. "Mr. Shun, harassing the victim during your bail period. Do I need to remind the judge? Let's go." Shenyang dragged Xiao Yang out. The child suddenly broke free from him and knelt on the ground with a thud. "Mom, I really know I was wrong. That day Aunt Lin said as long as you died, she would become my mom. I was just confused for a moment." Xiao Tang suddenly rushed over, like a little lion protecting its cub. When my mom passed away in a car accident, I dreamed of having a mom like Aunt Wan. You have a mom who treats you so well, yet you don't cherish her. Ending up like this is exactly what you deserve. Even a child should have the courage to take responsibility for their mistakes. Not act like a brat just because you're a kid." Xiao Yang's tears fell onto the floor. Shenyang finally dragged him away forcefully, the wind chime on the doorframe clattering with a harsh sound. Lu Chen bent down to pick up the backpack Xiao Yang had left behind. A crumpled drawing fell out, 3 stick figures holding hands, with the title family portrait so badly erased by a rubber that only the character for blessing remained barely intact. "Should we throw it away?" Lu Chen asked. I gaze out the glass door. Xiao Yang is looking back at the flower shop, his lips clearly forming the word mom. The setting sun stretches his shadow long, like a little dog wagging its tail and begging for pity. "Burn it." I turn around and pick up Xiao Tang. "Auntie will wrap the prettiest sunflower for you." Perhaps because they knew they were in the wrong, Shenyang and his father never came to my flower shop again after that day, or perhaps because they were too busy to spare the time. On a rainy afternoon during the plum rain season, Lu Chen pushed open the glass door with a newspaper in hand. He handed it to me. I saw the front page photo of Lin Yang, wrapped in bandages, looking just like a mummy. It was Shen Yang who did it. He shook the water droplets off his umbrella. Lin Yang was stabbed by Shen Yang and suffered lasting effects, so she clung to him, demanding that he cover her medical and living expenses for the rest of her life. My hands didn't even pause as I trimmed the flower stems. Outside the floor-to-ceiling window, the rain fell like a woven curtain. Pedestrians hurriedly stepped through puddles, their reflections mingling with the neon light pollution like dissolved oil paint. Later, I heard that Lin Yang became even more relentless, even chasing after Xiao Yang to his school to demand money. That day, Shen Yang swung a folding chair and broke her nose, while Xiao Yang, the child who had once tried to poison me to win her favor, stabbed her carotid artery with a pencil sharpener knife, killing her on the spot. "It's all your fault," Xiao Yang was said to have screamed hysterically in the interrogation room. "If you hadn't seduced Dad, Mom wouldn't have abandoned me." How ironic. To this day, he still believes that Lin Yang tore the family apart, yet he selectively forgets that it was he himself who poured peanut butter into my food, trying to kill me. On the day of the final verdict, Lu Chen deliberately closed his law firm to accompany me. The television was broadcasting. Shen Yang has been sentenced to 7 years in prison for multiple crimes, and his son Shen Xiaoyang has been transferred to a juvenile correctional facility. Fate is like a closed Mobius strip. All sins eventually come back to haunt their perpetrators. Xiaotang obediently held my arm and said, "Auntie Wan, don't be afraid, Xiaotang will always be with you." At the end of the rainy season, I received a letter from the Juvenile Detention Center. The craft paper envelope was scrawled with "To Mom," and inside was only a sunflower drawn on toilet paper, its center blurred into a smudged yellow stain by tears. I fed it into the shredder, grinding it into scraps along with those 12 years of marriage, and in the glass display case, the clay sunflower Xiaotang gave me forever faces the sun, its petals still engraved with "The best Auntie Wan in the world."